The lake gave the valley back 1 foot at a time that summer, and I wrote every inch of it into a green ledger. I keep the dam at Lake Corliss, up where the North Georgia hills start folding into one another, and I have kept it 19 years. There is a gauge house, a spillway with 3 gates, a levee road a mile long, and a cabin at the far end where I sleep. The authority sends a man in spring for the cables and a man in fall for the concrete. The rest of the year the lake is mine to write down, and water is patient company, which is why I have lasted at it. It rises in March off the ridges, settles through summer, comes back in November, the same numbers my father kept before me. That August, the numbers stopped resembling anyone's. We had gone 11 weeks without rain worth the word. The creeks went to string, then to damp gravel, then to nothing but the smell of gravel. By the 2nd week, I was reading the staff gauge at 14 feet under full pool, leaning off the walkway to see it at all. A reservoir withdraws, and what it leaves behind is the shape of whatever was there before. First the stumps came up, grey and cut flat, a forest sawed off at the ankle in 1951. Then the fence lines, wire gone to lace, following old property lines out into open mud. Then, in the middle of the month, the walls. I saw them from the levee at 6 in the morning, with coffee in my hand. 2 low courses of fieldstone, and the sun coming across so long that every stone threw a shadow the size of a man lying down. I had known they were down there the whole 19 years, and I had never once believed it. Wicker Ford was a town of about 400 people. It had a mill, 2 churches, a schoolhouse with a bell in a frame beside the door, and a ford that gave the place its name. The state bought the valley in 1949 and gave everybody 2 years to be somewhere else. They moved the grave, which is the part people ask about, and left the foundations, which is the part nobody thinks to ask about. Then they closed the gates and let the river do the rest, and it took 9 months to fill. By that August, the lake had given back the main street, the mill floor, the schoolhouse steps, and half the road leading in. People came to look, of course. The county opened the low ramp, and for 3 weeks there was a line of cars on the weekends. Men my age stood in what had been their grandmother's kitchens and could not decide what to do with their hands. I only asked that nobody go past the old mill race, because the silt out there will take a leg to the knee and hold it like a hand. The mud dried and cracked into plates the size of dinner trays, and the crowds thinned. That was when I started seeing the visitor. She came at dusk, which set her apart because everybody else came when the light was good for pictures. I would be walking the levee at day's end, and there she would be, working up the exposed slope toward the schoolhouse steps. An older woman, past 80 by the way she carried her shoulders, in a cotton dress and a man's canvas coat. She never came from the ramp. She came up the north side, along a cut that had been a switchback once, back when there was a town at the bottom of it. I figured she had people who kept the right of way open, because you did not see many come in from that side. The 3rd or 4th evening I walked out to meet her, not to run her off, only to say the thing about the mill race. She was on the second step with both hands on her stick, looking up at nothing, at the air where a door had been. "They kept it in a frame," she said, before I had said anything at all. "Not a steeple, a frame beside the door with a rope you could reach standing on the ground." On the last day, when the crews came through to be sure the valley was empty, somebody rang the school bell 3 times. It was not an alarm, and there was nothing left in the valley to warn. 3 strokes, spaced out slow, and then whoever it was let the rope go and walked to the truck. "You could hear it up the whole valley," she said, and a few families already loaded up stopped on the ridge road to listen. 11 at night, later than anybody had meant to still be there. I asked what happened to the bell. "A man from the county took it out the week before on a flatbed, and it went to a church 2 ridges over, and that church burned in the 60s. She said it plainly, the way you would say a road number. Then she stepped down off the stone and put her hand on my arm, which surprised me. "If you hear it out here, let it finish," she said. 3 is all it does. Don't answer it, and don't come down while it is going." I said I would remember. "People go down," she said. "That is the whole trouble with it. It sounds like it is asking." Then she went back the way she came, into the dark under the pines, and I watched until the coat stopped being a shape. I looked for her a few evenings after that, and then the weather turned my attention, the way weather does. The first night I heard it was the 9th of September. I know the date because I log the hour I go to bed and the hour I get up, a habit my father left me. I had turned in at 9:30 with the windows open, since the drought had at least made the nights bearable. The cabin sits close enough to the water that I hear it change all night without ever waking for it. What woke me was a sound with an edge on it, and there are no edges on a lake. I lay still and let it come again. It was low and long and made of metal, and it came up off the flat out where the town was. 1 stroke and then the whole ring of it, down to where a bell stops being a note and turns into a hum in the frame that holds it. Then a wait long enough for me to get both feet on the floor and my hand on the sill. The second one, nearer the middle of the valley, the dry mud giving it back flat the way an empty room gives back a voice. Then the longest wait of the 3, and I stood at the window with my palm on the frame and counted it out. The third went on a great while, and under it I could hear the rope end tapping the yoke, which is not a thing a person invents. Then nothing, and the lake went back to its own noise, and my clock read 7 minutes past 11. I did not go down, partly because she had asked, and partly because a mile of drying lake bed at that hour is no place for a man with sense. In the morning, I wrote the hour in the log and left the rest of the line blank. It came again 4 nights later, and then most nights after, always within a few minutes of 11, always 3. I got used to it faster than I would have guessed. It was not a scream, and it was not a knock at my door. It was a bell doing what a bell does in a valley that used to hold one. Twice I sat on the levee wall with a quilt over my knees and heard all 3, then slept better than I had in weeks. What I never did was answer it, and I never went down. In October, a surveyor came out to shoot the exposed foundations for the Historical Society. On the second afternoon, I asked about the North Cut and whether the right-of-way down that bank was still any good. He looked at me a moment and then went and got his folder. The North Approach had been closed since 1988, when the bank slipped after a wet spring and took 40 feet of trail into the water. They fenced the top and planted the scar in pine, and those pines stand 30 feet tall right where the path had been. He showed me the photographs, and there was no path in them. I thanked him, carried the cups back, and did not bring it up again. I have turned it over since, at the hour when a person turns things over, and gotten nowhere I would care to defend. An old woman in a canvas coat told me something plain about a bell and asked me one small courtesy, and I kept it. The rain came back the last week of October, the way it does here, without any announcement. 3 days off the Gulf, then a week of grey drizzle, then a storm that put 4 inches into the watershed in one night. The water climbed the way water climbs, an inch you can see if you watch the stick, then a foot you notice at breakfast. It took the road bed first, then the mill floor, then the fence lines, going under in the order it had let them out. The last thing to go was the schoolhouse steps. I walked the levee that evening and watched the top stone hold a little collar of water and then hold nothing. That night I lay in the dark with the windows shut against the cold and waited for 11. 11 came and went, and the lake made the sound a lake makes. I have not heard the bell since, and I do not expect to. The water sat at full pool all winter, and it is sitting there now, flat and green and 8 feet over a town. I read the stick in the morning, write the number in the green ledger, and put the pen back in the drawer. In the evening, if the light is worth it, I walk to the end of the levee and look at the water where the steps are. There is nothing to see out there, a mile of quiet water and the far ridge going purple. I stand a while anyway, the way you stand at the edge of a room where somebody is sleeping. Then I go in, and I leave the window open a finger's width, and I let the night take as long as it wants.